Welcome to Screen Chat, live from the Media Hub on riotradio.ca. I'm your host, Justin, and with me today behind the scenes we have Evan. Screen Chat is your show all about the latest Marvel movies, DC Comics, Star Wars adaptations, and much, much more. Now, today we have a really action-packed episode for you today. I'm really excited for it. As a couple weekends ago, we had San Diego Comic-Con 2024, and as always, Marvel kind of steals the show. So today we have a full Marvel-themed episode for you guys. I thought I'd rep my Captain America shirt. I've worn this exact fit probably 3 times on the show, to be honest, but it was a good collab that they did with Huff. But unfortunately today we are not going to be talking about Captain America or Steve Rogers. We have a discussion about the Fantastic Four that's coming up, and then later on in the show we're going to be making waves talking about the new Avengers movies that got announced, as well as someone that's returning to the Marvel Universe but in a different role, which I'm sure you guys know by now. But yeah, Evan's coming to you on this. Are you excited for today's episode to discuss these new Marvel projects that we got?
Yeah, man. I know a few things. I was really bad this year. Usually I'm really on top of what Marvel's putting out, especially at San Diego Comic-Con. But this time, not so much. I know a few things here or there, so you might just be getting live reactions from me.
I'm glad. That's always good to hear, to be honest. But yeah, it's going to be really good. We were going to do something similar to last week, but then we didn't have a chance. So I was glad that this episode was still kind of prepped and ready to go for today, and I'm glad we have a chance to record it now. So without further ado, I do want to start off today's episode with discussing the brand new Fantastic Four movie, as it was announced, as it will be called the Fantastic Four: The First Steps. Now, this will be very, very, very cool to see, as we finally got our look at the trailer. We'll discuss that momentarily, but we had the first steps, and from there we also saw the Fantastic Four cast on stage. It was pretty cool because they were actually shooting, so they took a break from shooting to come, I guess, give their presentations and have a talk. But yeah, it was crazy because personally I didn't know if we were going to get any Fantastic Four news. A lot of people, not including myself, but a lot of people were mad that Marvel wasn't putting out, and I was so confused. I'm like, the con's not even over. So granted, they eventually dropped this. We got the title there, we got 5G on stage, and I think this looks pretty cool. Obviously, Marvel is a red brand, so to see something blue, see the Marvel Studios in blue with kind of like a new logo there, I thought that was nice. And yeah, this is given 60s vibes, as we know it's going to be in the 60s. And yeah, we did see the cast on stage as well, which was nice. They did end up pulling up, and it's just really cool to see, just because I'm such a huge fan of the Fantastic Four, and it seemed like a fever dream if you think back to the 2000s movies that I really enjoyed. I thought they were good, but apparently people didn't. And then when you go to the mid-2010s, we got Fan Four Stick, as it's called, which I've refused to watch. So I feel like the Fantastic Four being mainstream Marvel doesn't really feel real. So I'm really excited for that. Evan, any first thoughts on the Fantastic Four, the first steps?
This is also my first time looking at the logo and the name. I just knew it as Fantastic Four. I didn't know it was First Steps.
Yeah.
I knew it was set in the 60s. The blue Marvel logo looks familiar to me, and I don't know why. So I just did a quick Google search just to see if this was the original 60s Marvel logo.
Yeah,
it's not.
Ooh, okay.
Which makes me think it's something else that I can think of. But I think there was a lot of logos back in the day that kind of had that checkered kind of like up down look, and the entire idea is that it's supposed to be like a pamphlet that's being opened up. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah, totally.
So yeah, I was really, really drawn in by that. I'm looking forward to this just by the casting. I like the casting choices. The time period is kind of what I'm like, what are we doing here? Like, it's interesting, but I'm so used to like 2000s Fantastic Four.
Exactly.
And I'm so used to I didn't see the other one because I was like, that's the thing. Like, I feel like when you're doing the Fantastic Four, the casting has to be perfect.
I'm with you on that.
And Marvel has done a good job of casting really great characters or really great actors and actresses for their roles. So I'm very pleased to see that they're doing this. Yeah. We'll see. We'll see how it goes. I'm cautiously optimistic.
Yeah, and then just on that note about the cast as well. So we do have some familiar faces, as we do have Pedro Pascal, aka the Mandalorian. We got Joseph Quinn, who is in Stranger Things. I kind of forget who he plays.
Joseph Quinn's great in Stranger Things.
Is it Eddie? Is that who he plays? I have no idea. I know he has the guitar.
I believe so. If
Sorry,
not,
Dan.
if not, he's Vecna. I'm trying to remember.
Yeah, we got Vanessa Kirby there as well. And then I honestly, because I'm not the best with names, we have Randy Moss's cousin. His last name is Moss. It's like Eben something Moss, I believe. I can't pronounce his name, but that's a good cast. Honestly, like I was a bit skeptical because as much as I love like we'll focus on Pedro Pascal momentarily, but these actors are very mainstream, and I don't think that's a bad thing now that I'm seeing them all together on stage. We'll discuss the trailer soon as well, but I'm not opposed to it as I was maybe a couple months ago when it got announced. We also haven't seen them together like this in person. We saw them sketched out obviously when they announced the casting and they showed the poster. It wasn't a real photo, it was them drawn, but it'll be pretty cool to see this as the cast. I know you just mentioned that you think the cast is good too, so like I'm happy with that at least. The one thing that I do want to look out for though is how this cast might compare to the 2000s. And I know I did bring up I do have a photo of Pedro Pascal, and then we do have John Krasinski. I meant to say 2010s, by the way. So in 2015, we got Miles Teller. In 2022, I believe that was, we got John Krasinski as Mr. Fantastic. So I think these two actors are both of them are interesting choices to play Mr. Fantastic on face value. I really, really like John Krasinski's adaptation. So with that being said, I know he was kind of stupid, but I really liked just his mannerisms. I enjoyed seeing his powers, and I did really like the suit. So I wonder how the suit is going to look in comparison. Now, we do know that it takes place in the 60s. However, it's a very futuristic setting of New York because it does not take place on Earth.
Yeah, I kind of associate it with like the Jetsons, where...
That's a great comparison.
Yeah, the Jetsons was set in the distant future, but all their technology, because they didn't know what our technology was going to look like, they kind of did their best with it. So yeah, it's giving me a lot of like live action Jetsons vibes, which I think is pretty exciting and pretty cool to look at. I'm really mixed feelings just looking at this image now with
both of them. Yeah,
with both, because I love John Krasinski and I thought he was like the perfect Mr. Fantastic. But I also love Papa Pascal over here. He's pretty great. Like, he is the dad, so I could see him being in this leadership role. So it's hard to say. I'm not unhappy with the casting. If anything, I'm just like, man, I really enjoyed John Krasinski, and they did him really dirty in
Doctor Strange.
Yeah, Doctor Strange. So, yeah. I like the casting, though. So, yes, Joseph Quinn is Eddie Munson from Stranger Things. I'm just trying to go back to that image. Hold on. Goo-ga-doo-ga-doo. There we go. So yeah, it's pretty exciting. I'm pretty stoked.
Yeah, I like that he
for just this cast.
I like that he has the buzzed head like Chris Evans did back in the day for Johnny Storm as well, which is pretty cool.
Yeah. I think that's just his natural look, though.
Oh, is it actually?
Yeah,
okay.
I think so.
Well, yeah, I guess it is kind of hard to pull off the hair that he has in Stranger Things.
Yeah, definitely. It's 100% a wig.
Yeah, so that is true.
Who is the guy on the far left?
Feige?
No.
Oh, Moss.
Gotcha. Okay.
I forget. So he's gonna play Ben Grimm. I forget his first name is like harder for me to pronounce, but I know his last name is Moss. And I made a joke like months ago. I'm like, is this Randy Moss's brother? It's obviously not. But yeah, for sure. So he'll be playing Ben Grimm. Obviously, Vanessa Kirby's playing Susan Storm. And yeah, I'm excited for it now that we have a trailer. Now the trailer has not been officially released. If you watched it illegally because someone filmed it. They were like this in the hall recording it, but then legit. Like, I watched it with my brothers, and all but 10 minutes later, Disney were starting to take them down. So I couldn't find a lot of trailer footage. We'll pull up the trailer footage I have after. But yeah, it seems like Reed Richards at the start of the trailer is like a teacher. And what I was saying to my brothers too, what people need to remember about the Fantastic Four is that they're not mutants like at birth. They, I guess, become mutants later on. But Reed Richards is like a scientist, philanthropist, one of the smartest men, if not the smartest man in the world. Sue Storm, depending on the adaptation, is like a bombshell, one of like the most popular like women like in America. And you have Johnny Storm, who just by name, associated with Susan, and then Ben Grimm is like the best friend, right? So you see them go into space as astronauts, and like my brothers were kind of confused, and I'm like, nah, you got to remember, like, these people aren't superheroes. They're just really smart people, depending on the whole adaptation. Yeah. So I think the way they do the origin story will be pretty interesting.
Yeah, I think the way they do the origin story is going to be really interesting, because in the 2000s adaptation, it's the same thing. Like, the origin story is still the same. So Reed Richards and Ben Grimm are best friends, but both of them are scientists. Susan Storm is also I believe she's a meteorologist, and that's why she goes up, because they were looking at space storms, I guess you could say. And then Johnny was the I think for some reason I feel like he was like just the stowaway, or he was the pilot, but I'm pretty sure Ben was the pilot. So it's really hard to say as to what Johnny's role is in this situation, which is kind of hilarious. But yeah, you're right. They're not mutants. They do kind of. It's easy to misunderstand that, though.
Yeah,
but
for sure.
By the way that the X-Men have defined what a mutant is, these people are not them.
Exactly.
They get their powers out in space after being exposed to a storm of sorts. But that's the old understanding of it. I don't know if they're going to do the same thing. I did see pieces of the trailer, and there are some question marks as to how things come up. But yeah, going back to Reed Richards in a classroom, he's kind of he gives me Walter White Breaking Bad vibes. Simply honestly. Because, and it's not in the sense that he's going to go and start cooking meth in the middle of the desert, It's just going to be that he's really passionate about science, and he's really into the idea of going out into space, and then he's stuck in a room full of children that just want to see something blow up.
Yeah, exactly.
So I'm like, no one really shares his passion.
Yeah.
So I think that is such a cool angle for this, is like a passionate scientist that's stuck being a teacher.
Exactly.
So I really love that idea, and I think Pedro Pascal will be able to pull that off really well.
Yeah, I think we're going to be saying to ourselves, to Richards through the screen, as Mysterio said to Tom Holland Spider-Man, don't ever apologize for being the smartest man in the room.
Yeah, straight up.
I feel like that's going to be like a reoccurring theme for him, to your point. And I think when you look at, I guess, the Fantastic Four universe, we've never really on live action seen it in this kind of setting. I want to see the impact that he has on the world from the context of it being so futuristic. Was he the anchor to that? Was he the like lead scientist, the engineer, whatever you want to call it? Like, how far did he advance civilization for him to be not necessarily stuck as a teacher, but did they relegate him to teaching, to be like, okay, cool, you're the smartest mind, we need you to instill that in the youth? And it's like, well, I could be doing so much more. Like, I'm trying to go to space, and that's what I'm kind of gathering. I think that maybe we'll see that, where it's like, you guys are wasting my talents just in a classroom with these like under 10-year-old kids, while I could be making waves studying the space storm that you did mention.
I agree with that, and I think that will make way. One of the big problems with Reed Richards as a character from the comic book standpoint, he kind of falls into the same trap as Captain America does, where he's the good boy, he's the goody two shoes, he's the moral compass of the group.
Yeah.
So I hope that this frustrated teacher, my talents are being wasted here, will give Reed a bit more of a character development.
Yeah, I'm with you.
And I really hope that we're going to see the frustration come through, and I really think we're going to see the arrogance come through as well. And I would love to see Pedro Pascal breathe new life into the character and make this character much more interesting than previously portrayed.
Yep, I'm with you on that. So yeah, that's just my opening thoughts based on the trailer on the Fantastic Four team itself. But I do want to move on now to a darker tone. So this got me very, very excited. So the trailer happens, it ends, screen goes black, and I'm thinking, okay, cool, it's over, it was looking good. But then they give us with this final scene, this final shot. So we do have it here. We see these massive eyes, this purple figure, and I think it is who we think it is. It is finally Galactus live in the MCU. We've waited so long for this. You could say we waited since 2007 if we're going to be like precise. But with that being said, Galactus, first look, I'm so excited for this.
I'm
first thoughts.
Super pumped.
Yeah,
this
I
looks
think it's gonna be
amazing.
crazy. For what Galactus is, right? And like the best comparison is that for what he is to the Earth is like what Arishem is in Eternals. He can't be small. Like, he can be small, to be fair, but first interaction with Galactus, he can't be no human size. He has to be larger than life. I think in this scale, he's a bit smaller than Arishem because, again, he could size himself down. But, oh my god, it's going to be crazy to see his impact. Now, Galactus is one of my favorite, if not my favorite Marvel villains ever. I have this, like, big Funko Pop of Galactus I was debating bringing in, but it was like, oh, it's raining, so I'm not getting this wet. But, yeah, insane. Like, I didn't know Galactus was going to be in the trailer. And remember, this trailer isn't even official, by the way. So this image is in obviously low resolution. But wait till we actually see the official release. And that grayish will probably look more purple. Look at his eyes. Like, his eyes are bigger than a human being.
So I can actually see a lot of the purple in here.
Nice.
There's so much that we can't see because it's low res.
Yeah.
But yeah, I'm glad you pointed out his size, because realistically, he is. If he's looking into a building and he's that big, he's too small.
Yeah.
So that's for context. That is 100% what that feels like. But we also don't know where we are, so it's hard to say where he is because he takes up the entire window.
Yeah.
I see a lot of purple in his face, so I think we're gonna get the traditional, purple mask over the front of the eyes. And that's really exciting. He also kind of has these really sharp features in the eyes and the nose, which makes me think he's going to be a little more mechanical, which I think is going to be really exciting. And I don't think that's how he was in the comic books. I think he was a little more organic. So that would be an interesting take on it. I just hope that we don't get a MODOK situation.
Yeah, I see
where
what you
we're
mean.
like, oh wow, this is a really cool character, and then the mask comes up and it's really goofy. But yeah, the eyes look menacing and terrifying. Like, this is just such an omnipotent
that's a
image,
great
and
word.
it's terrifying. So I'm stoked. This is my first time seeing this, actually.
Oh, really?
I
Yeah,
knew
yeah.
Galactus was a thing and that it was teased, but this is my first time seeing this image.
I'm glad. So yeah, absolutely love it. Was so hyped that he's in the trailer. Like I said, I didn't think we were gonna get it, and it'll be very cool to see the dynamic. And I say this because Galactus, he's had many different variants, many different appearances in comics, movies, I guess books too, if you want to count novels, even video games, Lego video games, Fortnite games. And so what I'm kind of alluding to is that the reason why I bring up all these variants is that it's actually been reported that alongside America Chavez, Galactus in Marvel is now going to be just one being. So there's no variants of Galactus. So all those adaptations that you know Galactus from, whether it is from those video games, those comics, those novels, is actually the same character, which I think is actually insane. So like, if you played Lego Marvel Superheroes, like, that's the same as this Galactus. If you watch Fantastic Four 2007, that Cloud being is also the same Galactus. And it just goes on and on and on, and that just makes this character even more, I want to say, intriguing than I think anyone in Marvel. Because as cool as America Chavez is, I'm not hating when I say this, but like, I don't really care that much about America Chavez, but this is Galactus we're talking about, probably the most menacing villain in all of Marvel. There's a few others that maybe aren't as well known, but like, I think when it comes to the Marvel big bad, like, it really is, you could say, Thanos for the casuals, but then I think for like the true Marvel fans, you kind of know that Galactus himself is coming. And like, this is a traditional look we see in the comics, and I just use this one because, again, that is going to be the same character as the one in the Fantastic Four. He's going to be multiversal, and I just think that's like the coolest nod, because that means he has so much knowledge, so much experience, power. Galactus's origin comes before the universe was even created. He lived in that society, and then when that society blew up, he merged himself with this armor and became Galactus. So he's older. He is actually older than the MCU. That might be the only character that we have currently older than the universe itself.
So I have so many questions about
Yeah.
Galactus. I'm really excited. They're all exciting questions. The big one that comes to mind, or the first thing that comes to mind, is this also the introduction of the Silver Surfer?
Yeah, honestly.
Which we kind of already knew that is a thing at some point. But I just thought of this now as well. Have you seen Loki season 2?
Yeah.
Okay. Does Loki know about Galactus now?
That's very true. I would do one further and ask you this in response. The Watcher, does he know about Galactus?
That's true. Does the
Because we know
Watcher?
Loki and Watchers are those kind of
Yeah.
beings now, right?
Just because, like, if you have Galactus is so powerful and so strong. If the Watcher knows about it, and Loki, he's now the guardian of the weaves of the weaves of time, or the different parallels. So surely he must know if something is happening within those weaves. And if Galactus, he's the world eater, if he's going around eating worlds in different universes, is that supposed to happen? Does the TVA know about it? It raises a lot of questions, which is exciting, but also gives me a lot of concern, because then it's like, oh no, are we now is Marvel going to overload this movie with a bunch of cameos that then they're going to forget about or dismiss?
Yeah, I hear you on that. I think one kind of throwaway that they do have is that you've seen Eternals, right? Or
I actually haven't.
okay, so history lesson then, I guess, for the world that hasn't seen
All right,
Eternals.
I'll take notes and we'll do
So,
the test.
I'll show it to you after. You've probably seen the clip, but basically the Eternals are actually not humans. They're pretty much robots. And I say this because Eternals are put on planets to not interfere with what happens in the world. They're put on the planets to watch it grow and nurture it. So any like bad thing, I guess we'll go 616. So Thanos, for example, the Eternals couldn't intervene because that's just natural, right? So the Eternals' goal and purpose is to go on planets, nurture it, and then when it becomes strong enough, it actually births a Celestial. So that's the point of all the Eternals. So what I will say to you is this, is that maybe, just maybe, Galactus eating a planet, that might just be natural. That just might, that's just what happens, unfortunately. Galactus also kind of shares one thing with celestial beings, is that he feeds off of the energy the same way they do. But it's kind of like, it's almost like in reverse, because he needs the energy to continue versus that some celestials need it to actually be born.
Right.
Such as Tiamat, who is Earth 616, is a celestial, which again, well, I don't have all this stuff in front of me, but that's just what I know because I've seen the movie, obviously. And we're going to get more information on Tiamat in Captain America. So that's also one to look out for. I think when it comes to Galactus, you kind of have to put him on that same scale as Arishem. When you see Arishem, the only person I thought that could fight him is Galactus. Who could scale that high, right? And I think too, when you look at other Celestials, we've seen Arishem, we've seen the Celestial in Guardians of the Galaxy 1, we've seen two Celestials in Thor: Love and Thunder. Those guys, minus Arishem, I guess, I don't think those guys could take Galactus. And Galactus is known to beat Celestials. So it's almost like, when you look at the Lokis of the world, when you look at the Watchers, when you look at the Eternals, what can they actually do? And I think it's kind of cool because a lot of people that saw Eternals didn't like it, but for someone like me that loves Galactus, I'm like, oh my god, they just perfectly set up Galactus. If they introduce him, you have the seeds to make that make sense. That was my biggest takeaway. So I'm excited for it. Kind of to your point, I was a bit worried, but to me, especially post Captain America, I think the seeds will be planted to kind of make this make sense. But what I do think is also really cool is that, I don't know if I mentioned this when we spoke about it, but you've obviously seen Across the Spider-Verse. So Miguel says to Lego Spider-Man that he's one of the best. And that's because Lego Spider-Man has fought Galactus. I know it sounds funny, but it's true, right? So I think that's another seed planter to be like, if Lego Spider-Man has fought Galactus. So there's a mention. It's like, I know it sounds funny to say, but that's one example. You also see Galactus in Fantastic Four 2, or I guess Fantastic Four Rise of the Silver Surfer, so that's another one. So with him being an omnipotent, I guess, universal being, I think I'm just going to have to accept that the Silver Surfer will be Shal Ball, I forget how you say her name, but it'll be the wife of the Silver Surfer, because we've already seen him in the other universe, and I could live with that. If I'm going to be completely honest with you, I could live with that. I was not happy with that before. But with that being said, we do have another Silver Surfer already established. And again, if he's going to be multiversal, it wouldn't really make sense if we've seen him twice now with the same Herald. That to me, I think I would be more upset with that now that we know this information. So before we move on completely, who do you want to see be under Galactus' control as a Herald, if not the Silver Surfer? If we're just thinking within Marvel, because he's going to be around for a long time.
Man. Who do we choose? Who'd be great? You know what would be really fun? If it was Ego. Ego came back at some point. It was just like, yep, I will. Galactus. I don't know how this would be done. I don't know. Marvel can come up with something. I make the theories. I don't try to prove them. Is Ego somehow comes back, or maybe like a cousin of Ego, and another Celestial enters as Galactus's pawn. I think that would be really interesting.
Yeah.
And I think that would be a great tie-in to bring Peter Quill back.
Yep, I think
that would be really sweet. There's a couple other villains. I also wanted to touch on your theory there with Into the Spider-Verse. The only thing that I'd be concerned on with that is Spider-Verse, and that Spider-Verse space is Sony owned.
Yeah.
So it's hard to say whether Sony have been playing nice with Marvel, and Marvel's been playing nice with Sony for the past little bit.
Yeah.
whether they would be okay with that kind of a little team up, and I think that would be really cool.
Yeah.
Hard to say though.
Yeah, we'll definitely spin back to that.
Yeah, we'll
point
spin back
for
to
sure.
that. Yeah, I think Ego would be really cool. I think Hercules would be really neat.
Yeah,
Just because we see Hercules mentioned and then Marvel kind of has forgotten about him.
Roy Kent, or sorry, that's Roy Kent from Ted Lasso. That's who plays
you got it. So I'm just like, I don't know, who's Marvel forgotten about?
I'd say for me, I'd love to see Hulk, because Hulk has been his herald before.
It's true.
Wouldn't be opposed. Thor has also been his herald, but Chris Hemsworth needs to do his own thing, so we can't really have that.
Would it be a Red Hulk then?
No, I'd want to see like
Proper
Green Hulk, like probably World Breaker. Another one that's interesting too is that, so what sucks is that this part of the show, I was going to bring in my Silver Surfer comics that have Galactus, but again, it was raining this morning, and I'm like, I'm not doing all that, so it sucks.
It still doesn't look great out there, so I don't think you were going to escape it, even if you protected it well, so all good.
I was going to bring in my comic that has this, but what I think is really cool is that in Thor Love and Thunder, we see Eternity. And you saw Thor Love and Thunder?
You betcha,
right?
I did.
So are you familiar with Eternity or not really outside that movie?
Not really, because it was tied to Eternals. I associated, I was like, oh, that's an Eternal. Got it. I understand that. But like any minute details, no.
So Eternity, I wish, again, I was supposed to just have my what's it called, comics. So I'm just going to like B-tech this, and I'm going to just pull up a photo. So this is Eternity for everyone that didn't know. So that's this one of him with Doctor Strange.
Got it.
Again, I was supposed to have the comics, so I don't think I was unprepared. And this was him in Thor. So just so you guys know. So like when Eternity pulled up, I was like, oh my god, like that's the strongest character in Marvel right now. And it is, to be fair. So Eternity and Infinity are brother and sister, they're twins. Now Galactus has encountered them multiple times in the comics. So a third one that I want to make is that if we have Eternity in Marvel now, you don't really see Eternity without Galactus in some way, shape, or form. So I'd almost bet the house that you're going to see Galactus and Eternity once again on the big screen. It only makes sense. Also, in that same comic, Galactus, this is around the same time that Thanos actually has the stones. So I think it's Eternity says to Galactus, what about Thanos? Like, go after his planet. And he's like, nah, I'm not fighting him. He has the stones. Why would I do that? So it'll be pretty interesting to see if they canonically acknowledge that. Because if you think about it, what if Eternity and Galactus had that conversation in the MCU, just off camera, during Infinity War and Endgame? And it would make sense because, again, you see Eternity after those events. So they definitely have been planting seeds. I'm not saying you're casual if you didn't know that, but that's almost like the like hardcore fans of these characters would only know that. Again, I was going to bring in the comics to show, but then I didn't know it was going to be raining this bad, so I wasn't going to do that. But there definitely have been seeds planted for Galactus if you really look into it and break it down. So I'm definitely really excited for that. So before we move on, do you have any final thoughts on this whole universe?
Yeah, all my thoughts have kind of gotten out there. I kind of wish, I feel like I now have to go watch The Eternals just to get
It's not a bad watch. Like, it really isn't.
See, I've heard it's not a bad watch. I've heard it is a bad watch, and don't waste your time. So it's tough to say.
What I'll say is this, right? And genuinely, and like, you know me, I'm very big on like my opinions to not back down. I went into it not knowing people hated it and loved it. I was like, dude, this is great. You can't, not you, but like in life, you can't really compare Marvel stuff to, can't compare it to Avengers. So it's like, if you went into that thinking it's going to be like a Justice League Avengers movie, what are you talking about, bro? Like, that's just not the Eternals. If the Eternals came out today, so not like, I guess, right after Infinity War, right after Endgame, if it came out today, yeah, it's probably better than most of the Marvel products we've gotten, not including Fox, because Fox just did Deadpool, they did X-Men 97, but in terms of MCU, it wasn't that bad, and it explains a lot. Same with Thor Love and Thunder, it explains a lot. So maybe the movies themselves aren't good, but for lore and continuity, you kind of need to watch them. So I would definitely give it a watch. But yeah, before we fully move on from this, well, no, I guess we are moving on actually. So that's just our thoughts on the Fantastic Four universe as a whole right now. I think it'll be really good. But I do want to have a little mini discussion in here about the Disneyverse. Now, this is kind of a funny discussion, kind of a reach, but still real. So with Pedro Pascal being announced as Mr. Fantastic, I'm like, oh my god, he's the Mandalorian and he's Mr. Fantastic. And we know Disney owns both Star Wars and Marvel now. And if you go back to Marvel's What If, we know that Mustafar is canon. I think I just spat. But we know Mustafar is canon because Ultron fights the Watcher, and when they're going through the universes, you literally see Mustafar. Like, you could see Darth Vader's throne in the back. So that being said, I want to do a little Disneyverse discussion. Now, I think I do have a photo here of just characters that have played multiple roles in Star Wars and Marvel. We got, you know, some of the most famous ones at the top, with Natalie Portman being Padme and Lady Thor, or I guess Jane Foster. My favorite, obviously, Mace Windu and Nick Fury being played by Sam Jackson. If you go down the ladder, a bit lesser known ones, I legit forget the guy that he plays in Black Panther, but we see Snoke. Obviously, he's there too. We see another person. I like to forget the Star Wars sequels, by the way, but we see another one there too with Talos. Also, Donald Glover, he played young Lando, and he also played a young version of the Prowler. Jon Favreau's up there as well. He's done many different things. So yeah, it just got me thinking, you know, once upon a time when I was like younger, I didn't really like look too far into this, especially with Mace Windu and Padme. But it just got me thinking, now that we know that Star Wars is in some form of Marvel, because again, we see Mustafar in What If, I'd like to say that these characters are all just variants of each other. If you went to the Star Wars universe and you tried to find yourself Nick Fury, you would see Mace Windu, or what's left of him. If you went to, I guess, tried to find a new Jane Foster, she'd unfortunately be dead because Padme passed away. But I just thought it's a nice little discussion. And I think at this point, right, like, I know it is a reach. I know it's just kind of funny. But if this was true, would you be surprised? I don't necessarily think anyone would be. But yeah, Evan, what are your thoughts on this little Disneyverse kind of theory?
This is hilarious.
It is pretty funny.
Disney's known to like reuse actors and different, like, Disney's kind of like the holy grail in terms of like a stable career in an actor's life, because usually if you do well and the movie does well with one of your performances, they'll probably call you back for another. And this is just the proof in the pudding, you know? Obviously, I was talking to you about this off air, but it works with Disney's animated stuff too, because they've used Max, voice actor from Cars, in different things. Like, he's the Abominable Snowman. He's Ham the Pig from Toy Story. Like, it's just it makes sense for them to do it. What this makes me think of, though, is have you heard of a game called Marvel vs. Capcom?
Yes.
All right. So they're going to do a new one. It's going to be Marvel vs. Disney.
Are they actually?
And it's going to be Sam Jackson's Mace Windu versus Nick Fury. I think that would be an excellent fight.
Wait, hold on. Is this confirmed? Or are you giving a hypothetical?
No. It's more of it's my own little what if.
Oh my god, you actually got me there.
Yeah, that's the theory now. So who would win a fight, Mace Windu or Nick Fury?
Legit, right? And like, it's cool to think about too, because there's also other actors here that like aren't. Or let me rephrase that. There are other actors that aren't on this list too. Like, we have Rosario Dawson, who is Ahsoka, one of the biggest characters in Star Wars, and she's also in the Daredevil universe. So it's like, if you watch Daredevil Born Again, is Rosario Dawson going to be in it? Maybe. But again, that's just another example, right? So I think it's kind of cool just to have fun with these things, because Disney is so prominent for that, like you mentioned. And it's like, Pedro Pascal, like, come on, man. Like, this guy is John Krasinski. This guy's John Krasinski.
Whoa.
This guy's a Mr. Fantastic and the Mandalorian. It's like you said, he's like the Hollywood
Who would win
dad,
in a
right?
fight, Mr. Fantastic or the Mandalorian?
Exactly, right? And so I do think it is pretty cool that Disney kind of do this, because again, it might seem like lazy, but in a world full of multiversal crossovers, I do think it's pretty cool. Will we see an official live action Marvel and Star Wars crossover? I think one day we have to. Like, it's almost a given. The dream collabs would be insane. Like, imagine you get, again, like Nick Fury and Mace Windu. That would be so cool to have on air.
I just picture like Mortal Kombat. Just like, have you seen those where it's like Omni-Man shows up and he's like, I don't know who you were, blah, blah, blah. I think it'd be really funny to just have Sam Jackson versus Sam Jackson and just go from there.
Legit. But okay, cool. So that was fun. But we are going to move on now to, I guess, you know, the big segment of the day. As much as I love the Fantastic Four, we also got some huge announcements regarding the future of the Avengers. So before we pull them up, we just like to acknowledge that Avengers 5, the Kang Dynasty, is no more. We're leaving it at that, because there's obviously much more to it. That's just all I gotta really say.
We also don't need to say our opinions on it.
Yep.
Like, it's in the news, you know what it is.
So that being said, we're like, okay, cool. What's gonna be the new Avengers film? Avengers 5. What's it gonna be? Let's pull it up because we do have confirmed Avengers Doomsday, May 2026, followed by Avengers Secret Wars, which we know is coming out, but now Avengers Doomsday being the precursor just a year earlier really changes the game. We see the green logo, we see the metal-ish logo as well. We know Doomsday, Doctor Doom. Oh my god, it's gonna be so good. And like I teased earlier, Doctor Doom is officially going to be played by Robert Downey Jr., which I think is absolutely wild. New mask, same task, craziness. I think this is like the coolest thing ever, and I'm excited to discuss it. So yeah, with that being said, Ivan, I know you've heard about this, so I know this isn't a live reaction, but we haven't really spoken about this because like I said, we couldn't really record the last couple weeks, or at least this episode specifically.
Life's been busy, man.
Yeah, so
it'd be like that. But no, it's been this is super exciting. I know so many people that are not happy about
I know,
this.
but I think they're narcs, but
And
we'll get
I'm
into that.
Man, no, how are you not jazzed about this? This
think-
is so exciting.
I think
We
it's
get
gonna be
RDJ, he's back. He's another Iron Man, kind of, sort of, not really. He's just Doctor Doom. But it's so exciting. The other really exciting part is the Avengers movies are both going to be directed by the Russo brothers
Yes,
again.
I should have said that too.
And I'm
Yeah,
like,
it's amazing.
Yeah, let's go. The best Marvel movies were done by them.
Mm-hmm.
So I'm so excited. I'm so pumped with this. And I think Disney has so much trust in them to make it good that they're not going to do their usual thing and interfere and make things weird.
Yeah, I'm with you
so
on that.
I'm really excited about this.
Exactly. So I will say this, like in a joking way, but like if this show was like, let's just say, not screenshot and this was like some independent recording, the title of this video would be called "Why RDJ's Iron Man and Doctor Doom Makes Sense," and I'll tell you why. So today I just wanted to discuss that because we know him as Iron Man, we know Rob Downey Jr. will always be Iron Man. So how does he become Doctor Doom? Well, I just think the first thing that we need to establish is that they confirm that he is Victor Von Doom. So he's not, sorry Mike, he's not Tony Stark. He's Victor Von Doom. So with that being said, Victor Von Doom as a character and visually could be anyone. It doesn't, like, he in his universe is not Tony Stark. He's Victor Von Doom. It's a completely new character. So he's not Iron Man. He's not Tony Stark that becomes Doctor Doom. He is Victor Von Doom being played by Robert Downey Jr. So that is one thing that we need to like fully establish. Now, when you hear about Iron Man and Victor Von Doom, there's a lot of different stories which we will be discussing, but the most notable one is the infamous Iron Man storyline. This is the cover there. We kind of see Doom and Iron Man kind of in the same mask, if you will.
Such a cool cover.
Such a cool cover. This is book one. Now, in most cases, right, Victor Von Doom and Iron Man butt heads, or Tony Stark butt heads, because and someone said it best, I forget who said it, but if you take all the good Tony Stark values and what he is and what he stands for, and you essentially, like, just to be blunt, radicalize it, it's Doctor Doom, it's Victor Von Doom. It's, you go from what Iron Man is to what Victor Von Doom is, and it's legit heads and tails. Like, it's the same coin but opposite sides. And I think this is why this works so well, because we know Tony Stark as Robert Downey Jr. We know him as the shining light of the MCU. He's probably the, like, when you think of Marvel, especially the last 15 years, it's Iron Man, it's Robert Downey Jr. Whether you like that or not, he's the face of it. He's the guy that made the most money. He's the guy that started it all. He's the guy that ended it all with Iron Man, right? So with that being said, how crazy is that the number one, as they say in wrestling, the number one baby face turns heel? You know, this is Hollywood Hulk Hogan joining the NWO. This is just, it's wild to me. And I think that just because of that alone, it really gives us a lot of substance. Now, to Evan's point, a lot of people haven't been happy with this. And I see a lot of people saying that the whole "I am Iron Man" means nothing now. But explain that to me, because that's Tony Stark. Robert Downey Jr. is not playing Tony Stark again. He's playing Victor Von Doom. Now, before I move on to what I think the suit could look like, it also needs to be known that these two characters in so many comics and movies and well, not necessarily movies, but especially TV shows and comics and video games, are so intertwined. They're rivals at times. They're both very good with tech. They both have their own suits of armor, both cover their face in the metal masks, right? You know, so that being said, what we have coming up here is what a lot of people think the suit might look like. This is obviously from a comic book, and this is once again Victor Von Doom in the mantle of Iron Man. So I'm pretty sure this is in the infamous Iron Man comic book, but pretty much, so let's just backtrack. We'll backtrack a little bit. So I'm not going to give you the full, story, sources, all that stuff, but Evan, I'll explain this to you. So pretty much, are you familiar with the term the New 52 in DC, how they restart the universe? And that's
yes.
Yeah.
So I am somewhat familiar. I don't know it completely in depth, but I've heard of it, and I've also heard of Infamous Iron Man.
Yeah. So in DC, for everyone that doesn't understand, the term New 52 means that they restarted the DC universe, like the comics. So anything New 52 is after that. So essentially, in the Marvel comic universe, there is a time period where Reed Richards essentially had, like, I guess if this was the X-Men, we'd say he was like an Omega level threat. He had like insane power, galactic power, and pretty much Victor Von Doom in this comic was so jealous of Richards, not because he was smarter, stronger, because he had a family. He had support around him while Doom had nothing. So then Victor Von Doom said to him, would you do that again? Would you do your family like that again? Would you do life? And Richards said no, he wouldn't. So what he pretty much does is he restarts the universe. And from there, in the new life, Victor Von Doom is a good guy. He's not a bad guy. He just, that is my alarm telling me to clock in for lunch, but I'll do that after. But with that being said, though, so now that he's a good guy, he seeks help from Tony Stark. And Tony Stark is like, no, I don't want to help you. I don't believe you. Yada, 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 yada. You're still a bad guy. So now in that said story, Tony Stark dies. he's either dead or is presumed dead. So what Doom does is he takes over the mantle of Iron Man. So Victor Von Doom is Iron Man and has like those suits, has his own twist on it. And that cover of the infamous Iron Man is essentially what he is now becoming. So with that being said, what I think that's interesting is that why wouldn't that make perfect sense? So you're telling me that in an alternate universe, Victor Von Doom becomes Iron Man from a good light. Whether or not that stays good is besides the point, but he in a good way becomes the Iron Man. So with that being said, that would literally be like Tony Stark, Robert Downey Jr. Now this photo that we have up here is actually, this is pretty cool. So this is from a What If storyline. So this specific story, Doom and RDJ, or I was gonna call him RDJ, but Doom and Tony Stark are kind of like rivals. And at this point, they switch bodies. That's kind of the what if. So Victor Von Doom has his own Iron Man suit, but obviously it looks like that. It's a pretty cool story. I haven't read all of it. I didn't want to necessarily talk about it and not show a photo because it is pretty cool. But just with that being said, there's a lot of potential plots, a lot of history, a lot of continuity, source material that they could pull from this. So I just think that what I just said only scratches the surface. We might see Robert Downey Jr.'s Doom we might see him in Fantastic Four. God forbid we see Robert Downey Jr.'s Doom beat Galactus, because then I'd be upset. But there's a lot that they could do, and Doctor Doom, as you guys know from watching this show, is like the most OP Marvel character. This guy one-shots Thanos, which would be cool to see them redo in a different universe to be one-shots Thanos. We've seen him just beat everyone. And I think the possibilities are endless, and I think it's so cool that the face to name is Robert Downey Jr. So, Evan, that's essentially my pitch on my first thoughts. Sorry that I kind of took the floor like
5
that.
out of 7. No, I'm good.
Absolutely love that.
All good, man.
But what are your kind of thoughts on this? Because I know you said people aren't too happy. Where is your head at with this?
So, I love the idea of RDJ being Iron Man in one universe and then Victor Von Doom in another, or something, however Marvel chooses to do it.
Yep.
Marvel Disney chooses to do it. And I like the idea. I'm real concerned. Not because I don't like the idea. I just don't want. So my big concern is I don't want them to pull a secret invasion where Rhodey was a Skrull the entire time.
Yeah.
I hate that so much. It's probably the worst thing. Just every character moment doesn't make any sense from that moment forward. So it's bonkers. Don't like it. Not even a little bit. So the idea that I really don't want them to do us dirty and be like, oh yeah, I was Victor Von Doom the entire time and I faked my death and blah, blah, blah. Because I would be like, no, please do not do that. I would I would be so upset if they did that. So
Yeah, I don't think they will. I hope not. It just wouldn't make sense. if
man,
they did.
it doesn't make sense. But man, having Rhodey be a Skrull didn't make sense.
Here's the thing, though. You mentioned this. It's now in the Russo brothers' court.
It's true.
like,
That's the only saving grace.
I don't think they'd bring these three back to do something stupid like that. But you are right. It is fair to be cautious. It's Marvel in 2024. But with that being said, right, there's just so much that they could do. And like, a lot of people are upset and mad online. I just don't think they see the vision. And this is the one thing about it too. And I stood on this hill. I said this. I can't hate Marvel for releasing bad product now because you need all these years to build up Secret Warriors, Secret Invasion. Damn, brother's rocking a Manchester United kit from 2008 AIG. It's a tough kit. I just had to acknowledge
he didn't even
that.
hear you.
I just had to acknowledge that.
That's so upsetting.
I know.
We're in the hallway.
He's not a real one then. Take off the kit blood. But regardless, though, going back to Marvel. Yeah, I just think that there's so much possibilities that they could do where I feel like it just hits different. Now, before we move on, because we are going to talk about the Avengers, if we're good for time. I hope we're good for time. But mainly with Doctor Doom, he wears the mask because he gets so badly scarred. And I think people that are casuals don't really understand that. So there is also a possibility that Doctor Doom is just played by Robert Downey Jr. and we don't really see his face till like, I don't know, maybe the climax of his character. We might be in a situation where we catch, like, the big reveal is him just taking off the mask to breathe, the way like Darth Vader does, let's say. And it's like, oh shoot, like that's a scarred up RDJ as Doctor Doom. That's another possibility, right? Doctor Doom doesn't necessarily go around without that mask, and I think a lot of people kind of forget that because there's Tony Stark and then there's Iron Man, but once he becomes Doctor Doom, it's just Doctor Doom. Like, forget about Victor. He's not taking off that mask. He's not a scientist. He's not a friend. He's just the leader of Latveria sitting on that throne, right? So I think there's a lot to discuss. But as of right now, we don't know, right? Like, these are just my theories. This is just what I've gathered. This is just me telling you why it makes sense based on source material. We haven't seen a trailer. We don't know a plot. We know a release date, thankfully. We got 2 years, which is less than 2 years, actually, which is mad. I actually can't wait for that, to be fair. But yeah, there's definitely a lot to talk about for Doomsday. But there's also a lot to talk about for Avengers Secret Wars, which is going to be Avengers 6. Now, we have a possibility to see everyone and their mom in this movie. This is like I love this Marvel shot because you see everyone and their mom. You got Captain America, Spider-Man, Iron Man, Hulk, Thor, Ant-Man, Miles Morales, Bucky. Also, keep in mind, I genuinely have this poster on my wall at home. Well, at least when I was a child, grew up with this. So I've probably named all these characters that are here multiple times in my life, my brothers. So what's so funny though is that this is everyone notable in Marvel. We even see like Red Hulk. If you look back, you see Doctor Strange is there. You see Elektra, Bullseye, Loki. Like, if you go further back, you see the Celestials too. Evan, just for you, that one in the middle there with like the horns kind of looks like Arishem. I'm pretty sure the one that has his head cut off might just be Arishem, to be honest. You see Nova. We see Ego as well. He's up there too. Ghost Rider's there. And I only name all these characters because it's Secret Wars. These guys actually all might be in the movie. So, Evan, with that being said, what are your first thoughts on Avengers Secret Wars? And like, are you familiar with that story?
I am.
Okay.
I'm super excited for it.
Mm-hmm.
I'm mostly like, if there's an opportunity to bring back like a Chris Evans Captain America, this is the way to do it.
Yeah, legit.
And all these other characters, I'm super excited for it. We also might go see Cosmo the dog again. You know, this might be a cool introduction to Nova. Like, there's tons. There's Taskmaster in there too. Like, I'm just looking around and I'm like,
I love
man,
this poster so much.
There's so many characters.
You
that
even
they
see
can pull
Venom
from.
in the back too.
Yeah, 100%.
Apocalypse is there. Like, it's amazing, right?
Yeah.
And like, to your point, it's really cool that this story is finally like, it's finally getting done because it is well known. I'm not saying that, oh, like the casuals know this, because I'm saying it all. But just with that being said, this is like the story to make. And I think with Marvel, it's like the grand finale. And I think people like need to understand that with Secret Wars, you can't do it overnight. Secret Wars has been a thing in the works since Avengers Endgame. So when like legit when it got announced, I'm not trying to sound like LeBron. I legit said to someone, I'm like, this is gonna take at least 6 years to build up, and then it is like it will. Now they've been doing stuff since then, and are gonna do more stuff now. But yeah, in terms of the Marvel universe, it's gonna be different as we know it. Now I don't want to go into any spoilers about Deadpool and Wolverine because it's only been out for about 2 weeks now, just looking at my calendar. But we do know that Doctor Strange causes an incursion, and Secret Wars happens when there's 2 incursions, because there can't be 2 incursions. So there's a lot of stuff that we will see, which I will touch upon that. But there's also one person that I want to spin back to is Doctor Doom and his role in Secret Wars. We know from the comics that he plays a huge role. This is one of the coolest covers in the series. And this is what kills me about Doctor Doom. It says there, against the Beyonder. Like, how is this brother lining up against the Beyonder? That's beyond me, no pun intended there. And then if you go to the next one, issue number 12, it's another cover of him after the Big Bang. And see, we do have Victor here, and not necessarily spoiling the comics, but he gets his face back. But yeah, he plays such a pivotal role that when they were setting up Kang Dynasty, a lot of my theories revolved around Doctor Doom. I'm like, I could see Kang losing, and the second half of the movie, or like the back end, introduces Doom that leads into Secret Wars. Now we're just getting Doctor Doom to start. We're getting a whole movie, Avengers Doomsday, that then leads into Secret Wars. So that'll be really cool to see. We're going to go back to Evan here. Just with your knowledge of Secret Wars, how hyped are you now that we are getting Doctor Doom and it's confirmed?
Might be a hot take, but Doctor Doom is way better than Kang.
Okay. No, I don't think that's how I agree with you.
Way better. So I'm happy with the switch. I didn't really know who Kang was. I knew he was some big bad evil guy, but I knew they wanted to tie it into the multiverse and blah blah blah.
Yep.
But I think Doctor Doom is a much more well known in terms of the public audience.
Yep.
As well as a statistically stronger character than Kang as well.
Yeah.
So I think this is a good play. I don't know why they didn't lead from this from the get-go. If they were already kind of teasing Fantastic Four,
yeah,
it's an obvious in.
I think the writer's strike definitely played a part. They were definitely able to tweak things. I will say that the Kang the Conqueror story that they were cooking up, I'm like one of the sole guys that was like really believing in it, especially that after credit scene. I thought they could have done a lot. We'll never know now, unfortunately, shout out Kanye West, but I guess we'll never know. But this is definitely something that I will never complain about. And I think what a lot of people, what I saw, were mad at is that they were kind of like, okay, cool. They got rid of Kang the Conqueror. These are not my words. I'm just relaying a message, by the way. We don't like that. We don't agree. Bring him back. So to make us feel better, we're going to throw in Robert Downey Jr. and bring in Doctor Doom, which I don't think is true. But to be honest, like, to be just completely blunt, I was upset that Kang the Conqueror, the character got removed, because I'm a huge fan of Kang the Conqueror. So when we lost Kang the Conqueror, I was very upset, because I'm like, you legit could, give it to John Boyega. That would be pretty cool. You could give it to different actors, because Kang the Conqueror and Kang Dynasty is there and will be really good. So with that being said, maybe that was me. Maybe I was like, well, they're just giving us something cool to make me forget about my anger before, which is true. I'm not upset anymore. But it's like, if they didn't do Doctor Doom, I don't know who else they could have done. So that's just kind of my take. I was all in on the Kang Dynasty, to be fair. And I think you could have set it up to do Kang Dynasty, Secret Wars with Doctor Doom, and then everything else, Galactus. That was my vision. So I think this is like the next best, if not even better. I'm not complaining at all. I think
agree
this is awesome.
Completely. I think that RDJ being thrown in here was not a, hey guys, look at the shiny thing so you forget all the stuff we did and it wasn't good. Man, why didn't they throw John Boyega as Kang? Like, come on.
It writes itself.
It writes itself. It ties into our Disney Star Wars crossover theory.
Exactly.
Like,
the guy that gets done dirty, sorry Mike again, does dirty in Star Wars is the albeit conqueror of Marvel.
Come on. How cool would that be?
It's literally there.
And John Boyega deserves so much better.
Mm-hmm.
So I think that would have been really sick. But he also might not want to do anything with Disney anymore.
That's also very true.
So hard to say. But no, I agree with you. I think that there's a lot of people out there that are hating on the idea simply because they want Disney to acknowledge that they screwed up.
Yep.
And Disney has not. So hard to say, but either way, I'm happy for it. I'm really excited for it.
Yeah, I think that Secret Wars is going to give us a lot of different matchups. Now, I'm not too familiar with Avengers Secret Wars, the comic. There's also Secret Wars 2 that has the Beyonder. So that iconic scene of the Beyonder like smiling like this, and then you see the Iron Man bots above him. That's from Secret Wars 2. So who knows? Maybe they do that. I don't think they will because, well, actually no, they could. Who knows? But one panel that I want to bring up was actually from a comic book. It was X-Men versus the Avengers. And I think this is cool because we kind of see, like, if we pull it up, we kind of see, I guess, the different matchups that we could get. I'm a huge like X-Men guy, so this is like a 4-parter, and we get X-Men versus the Avengers, and it is cool because you see like Captain America fight Wolverine, which I thought was like, you know, pretty cool. I'm repping Cap right now, but I'm very much like a Wolverine guy. Yeah, real quick, if we could pull up the X-Men. Yeah, if that's okay. So like I want to see something like this. Like I want to see like on the left we got like the Captain Americas, the She-Hulks, the Novas, versus then like the X-Men characters. Like we see Wolverine there, like I mentioned, we see Rogue. It would kind of be like in WWE where you get two baby faces fighting, you know? It's like, oh my god, I want to root for Captain America, but it's Wolverine. Oh my god, I really want to root for Tom Holland, but it's Andrew Garfield. You know, like I want us to have those kind of moments. Granted, like I said, I'm more familiar with this story. That's why I grabbed this specific photo. Obviously, we know they're not doing this story. But with that being said, just the idea of seeing heroes fighting heroes, because it's an incursion. And I think my brother said it too. We see right here, we see Wolverine fighting alongside Magneto. When does that ever happen? And I told him, well, the villains are going to die if they don't help out. So we might be seeing some dream matches in Secret Wars. Evan, what are your thoughts on this like potential, I guess, good guy versus good guy scenes that we were going to get?
This is what makes Secret Wars so good, and this is what makes it so exciting. And after seeing Wolverine and Deadpool, I'm not going to say anything, but it's possible they did. Ryan Reynolds, man, what a dream! He pulled out all the stops for it.
Yeah,
so,
legit.
Yeah. It's very possible that could happen.
Yeah.
So I'm looking forward to it. I'm really excited to see. And Disney's got the capital. They got the money to make it happen. I would love to see a triple Spider-Man head off. Man, imagine if this is the way they cast a Miles Morales live action. How
that'd be sick.
Cool would that be?
You get like Andrew and Toby on one side, and then Tom's like, well, damn, like I need backup. And then you just see, oh my god, Peter, is that you? It's just Miles Morales.
That'd be so good.
That'd be so good. It'd be hard, yeah. So the I guess options are endless. You know, this was kind of more or less just like reviewing San Diego Comic-Con and then giving our thoughts, because we could legit do another episode based on these two movies and it'd be so different, right? We just don't know a lot about the plots and the turns just yet.
We could legit just theory craft for hours.
But yeah, I said to Evan off the air yesterday when I was prepping the script, because I want to just revise it a bit. I'm like, I definitely want to do some more research on some of the stories, not all of them though. You know, one of the things that I regret to this day is that like I read Captain America: The Winter Soldier inadvertently a year before that movie came out. So it's a good movie, but I was like, you know, like I know what happened. So I don't necessarily want to read all the source material and then be like, I guess, not underwhelmed, but I don't want to know what happens. That's why I don't read manga. You know, I love reading manga after I've seen the animes, but I don't necessarily want to read everything Marvel has to offer. But I also do want to be, I guess, heads up, because if we're going to talk about it on the show, I don't want to go in blind, right? So yeah, I just think these movies are going to be fantastic. I think with that being said, we'll definitely get more episodes on these projects in the future once we get more information. As you guys might know, Fantastic Four was touted to come out this November, but it got delayed due to the writer's strike. So we'll have to wait a little bit, but I'm excited though. There's a lot that Marvel are going to be releasing. That's going to be really good. You know, we just got Deadpool. We already had X-Men 97. We're getting Agatha at the end of the year. We're going to get Captain America to start 2025. 2025 will also see the Fantastic Four return. 2026, we will be seeing, obviously, Avengers Doomsday. And they're just doing so much as well. So I think finally Marvel's on that upward trend. Someone like me was, yes, disappointed, but they just did so much good work in a short amount of time that you had to let them get a break. You had to let them be mid. You had to let them build up this story. And once X-Men 97 came out, you could tell that there was a shift, as they say. That was where they really set their bar back up to the top. And I think now it's just going to be banger after banger after banger. So with that being said, that's all I got for you today. Evan, anything else you want to add in before we close
rounded out very well. Very good job.
Thank you so much. So yeah, thank you Evan for being here today. As always, thank you guys for watching. Couldn't do the show without you, Evan, behind the scenes. So thank you so much. I'm just really excited with what Marvel has going on right now. I think it'll be really good. Definitely future episodes we will be talking about this. And yeah, so that's all I got on Screen Chat today. Unfortunately, it is very, oh man, it's raining right now. So it's not your usual outro of go enjoy your FNF Friday, because I'm going to be inside, to be honest. But thank you guys so much for watching Screen Chat. My name's Justin. Don't forget to follow us on our social media at DCSA Media Hub. That's all I got for you today. And be sure to stay tuned for the next episode. Thank you guys so much for tuning in.